Tippy, home instruction for parents of preschool youngsters.
A surprise for Reggie. It was a rainy Saturday morning. Reggie was jumping on the sofa again. Don't jump on the sofa, said Reggie's dad. Reggie stopped. He put his arms out. He jumped from the sofa to the floor. Crash! He climbed back on the sofa and jumped again. Crash! Reggie, you sound like an elephant. Reggie stopped jumping. His legs really wanted to do something. He went to the window and looked out. It was wet. It was gray. It was a real what can I do day. Reggie remembered the cookie jar in the kitchen. He had helped his father make cookies the night before. Big oatmeal cookies full of nuts and raisins. The whole house had smelled sweet. Thinking about the cookies made Reggie hungry. Daddy, may I have a cookie? Not now, Reggie. Please. Reggie's daddy turned the TV off. I have an idea, Reggie. What? I'm going to make a treasure hunt for you. A what? You'll see. Now sit down on the sofa and cover your eyes. Reggie sat down and covered his eyes with his hands. Don't open your eyes till I tell you to. Reggie sat with his hands over his eyes. He waited and waited. He could hear his dad moving around the house, in the kitchen, through the living room, down the hall, and back. What was going on? He really wanted to peek, but he didn't. Then Reggie felt something on his lap. Open your eyes. Reggie opened his eyes. There was a piece of paper on his lap. On the paper was a picture his father had drawn. It looked like this. What's this? Reggie's dad pointed at the picture. A bed. Whose bed? Reggie looked at the picture. There was a penguin on the bed. His friend Penguin. My bed. Good, Reggie. Go to your bed and see what's there. Reggie ran down the hall into his room. There was his bed, and there was Penguin. Right beside Penguin was another piece of paper. Another piece of paper with a drawing on it. It looked like this. Boots, said Reggie. Yes, said Daddy. Whose boots? My boots. Reggie's father nodded and smiled. Reggie skipped down the hall. His boots were by the back door. He looked in one boot. It was empty. He looked in the other boot. There in the second boot was another piece of paper. Another piece of paper with a drawing on it. This one looked like this. Reggie didn't ask his daddy about the picture. He ran right to the TV. He looked at the front of the TV. There was nothing. He looked at the back. There was nothing. He got up on a chair and looked on top of the TV. There was another piece of paper with a drawing on it. This one looked like this. Reggie ran to the telephone. He looked and he could find was the telephone. That was all. There were no more pieces of paper. He looked at his daddy. You haven't looked everywhere, Reggie. Reggie looked again. He couldn't find anything but the telephone. He frowned. Then he scratched his head. Are there any other telephones in our house? Reggie's daddy asked. Reggie remembered his telephone. It wasn't a real telephone. It was his toy telephone. He often called Penguin on it. Reggie ran to the toy box and opened it. There was his telephone with another piece of paper. A piece of paper that looked like this. The cookie jar, Reggie yelled as he ran into the kitchen. Reggie's dad was already there with the cookie jar. He took the lid off the jar. Oh, said Reggie as he looked inside. On top of the cookies was another piece of paper. A piece of paper that looked like this. Reggie ran to the sofa. He looked behind the sofa. Nothing. He looked under the sofa. Nothing. He looked all around it. Nothing. He looked at his daddy and he shrugged. Look, said Daddy. He was pointing. Reggie looked at the sofa again. Then he saw the paper. It was a tiny little bit of brown paper. It was sticking out from under one of the pillows. Reggie jumped onto the sofa. He tossed the pillow aside. There was a brown bag. For me, said Reggie. Yes, it's for you, said Reggie's daddy. You found the surprise. Reggie put his hand in the bag. He felt something thick and square. He took it out. It was a box of crayons, brand new crayons of many colors. Something else slipped out of the bag. It was a pad full of white paper. Reggie jumped up and down. He loved to draw. Now he had new crayons and a pad all of his own. Reggie's daddy laughed. "Don't jump on the sofa, Reggie." Reggie stopped jumping. He slid down onto the sofa. "Cover your eyes, Daddy." Reggie's dad covered his eyes. He peeked through his fingers at Reggie. "No, Daddy, you can't do that." Reggie opened the box of crayons. He thought a minute. Then he drew a picture of himself. He drew a big, big smile on the face. He drew a box of crayons in one hand. He drew a pad in the other hand. He went to the kitchen and put his picture in the cookie jar. Reggie made sure his father wasn't peeking. Then he drew another picture, a picture of the cookie jar. He put the picture on his father's lap. "Open your eyes." Reggie's daddy opened his eyes. He looked at the picture. His eyebrows went up. He went to the kitchen and got the cookie jar. "All this running around has made me hungry," said Daddy. "Let's have a cookie." "Surprise!" yelled Reggie as his dad opened the cookie jar. Reggie's daddy laughed as he took the picture out. He gave Reggie a hug. Then they sat down together on the sofa. They drew lots of pictures. They ate quiet, a few cookies too.
Visit us on Facebook, Hippie USA, Houston County.